Following the conclusion of the First World War, American working-class women began to drastically change their clothing attire. By the 1920s, American middle-class women began to enjoy these luxuries that previously only working-class women had delighted in. All across the country, women started the tomboy look. The flapper icon was born. Defining the new and modern woman of the 20th century, the flapper was an important figure in this era's popular culture. Attention was drawn to women at the formation of these new appearances. Controversy generated as critics responded publicly with both enthusiasm and disapproval alike. The flapper woman was the embodiment of controversy. Defying old traditions and determining new customs, she created a risky situation for herself. The flapper defined herself in terms of both the clothing she wore and the actions she conducted. Flapper styles disregarded established fashions in exchange for the new and daring. The popular styles in the 1920s emphasized a woman's body through the use of shorter skirts and drop waists. A common defiant element of flappers was to intentionally misuse clothing and wear outrageous accessories. With regard to behavior, women displayed a carefree disregard for authority and morality. They drank heavily during the Prohibition period, smoked, drove fast, used slang, and embraced novel dances such as the shimmy, the Charleston, and the black bottom. These dances highlighted their bare arms, legs, and back. Furthermore, they exerted bad posture. The debutante slouch, with hand on hip, was meant to emphasize the absence of a corset. These new customs defined by the flapper woman set up circumstances in which dispute was inevitable. Occasional negative criticism towards the dress and actions of flappers was seen from older generations. There was a cultural gap between the previous generation and the generation of flapper girls. Flappers acted and dressed very differently than their mothers and grandmothers. At times, the older generation frowned upon the actions of flappers. This is because the actions of young 1920 women were so radical compared to earlier standards. Furthermore, criticism was generated in the Catholic Church and in the textile business. Women's clothing was becoming much lighter, threatening the textile businesses in America. Journalist Edward St. Martin explains how the decrease in women's clothing was a danger to businesses and caused disapproval from Catholics. Quote, "A young woman carries her summer wardrobe in a satchel. The baggage express business is in straits. Saratoga trunks are seen only in attics. What you cannot carry on a motor car does not go. The textile trades are in trouble. Woman has emerged to a degree that makes some people rather nervous, and the chief and almost the only remonstrant is the Catholic Church, which is in the interest perhaps of celibacy, is strong for keeping women covered, neck, arms, and legs, at least in the church." End quote. The diminishing fabric was a threat to textile businesses. The increasing amount of skin shown received backlash from conservatives. However, many other Americans responded with enthusiasm at the generation of the flapper image. Journalist Bruce Bilvin interviewed a flapper woman about the messages behind the clothes. This woman praised the flapper look for the liberation it represented. She responded with, quote, "The fact is that women today are shaking off the shreds and patches of their age-old servitude. Women have highly resolved that they are just as good as men, and intend to be treated so. They clearly mean that in the great game of sexual selection, that they shall no longer be forced to play the role, simulated or real, of helpless quarry. If they want to wear their heads shaven as a symbol of defiance against the former fate which for 3 millennia forced them to dress their heavy locks according to male decrees, they will have it their way." End quote. Many Americans believe that the liberation from previous ways that the flapper image represented was positive. The endeavor towards sexual equality was a clear message behind the drastic change in women's clothing and actions. Approving critics who praised flappers did so because of this reason. Magazine writer Ellen Wells Page notes that during the 1920s era, quote, "In every person there is a desire, an innate longing, towards some special goal or achievement." End quote. The image of the flapper was developed to try and obtain women's desire for liberation. By stepping outside of previous boundaries, flapper women generated controversy of both praise and disapproval.